the combined snap gauge has both the go end as well as no go end on only one side. Whereas in the previous, that is the double ended snap gauge, the go gauge was lying on one side and the no go gauge was lying on the other side. Now in combined gauge, now when the shaft is passed through the go end, it should pass through it, and if the shaft passes through it, it means the shaft is manufactured within the stated tolerance limit. After passing through the go gauge, now the same shaft is passed through the no go gauge, and as per the name, the shaft should not pass through it, and if the shaft does not passes through the no go gauge, it means that the shaft has been manufactured within the stated limits. Now in both the double ended as well as the combined gauge, the common property is that these are fixed gauges, as these jaws, that is the upper jaw and the lower jaw of both the go as well as no go gauges in double ended and combined gauges are not movable, they are fixed. Now the third gauge is adjustable snap gauge. Now why it is called adjustable snap gauge? Here both the dimensions of the go gauge and the no go gauge are changeable by using this screw. That is, if we turn this screw, then the dimensions of this go as well as no go can be changed. So when the dimensions are kept fixed, the shaft is passed now through the adjustable snap gauge, and if it passes through the go gauge, it means the shaft is manufactured accurately. In the next step, we pass the same shaft through the no go end, and if it does not passes through the no go end, it means that the shaft has been manufactured within the stated limits. So for the first two gauges, that is the double ended gauges and combined snap gauge, the jaws or the distance between the jaws are fixed, that is they cannot be changed by using any method, so they are called as fixed snap gauge. Whereas in the third, that is adjustable snap gauge, the distance between the jaws, that is the upper jaw and the lower jaw, is changeable, that is we can change the dimension of both the go gauge and no go gauge, the remaining function remains the same, so it is called as adjustable snap gauge. Now the third gauge that we will study is ring gauge. A ring gauge is in the form of a ring. As you can see that these two are nothing but the ring gauges, which are used to check the shafts and male members. So like the snap gauges, ring gauges are also used to check the dimension of only shaft. The go and the no go members may be separate or in a single ring. Now in this case we have two rings or two separate rings. One ring is the go ring and other is the no go ring. But also we have we can have both the rings as a single unit. That is, both the gauges will be manufactured as a single unit. One side will be go and the other side will be no go. Whereas in this case, both the rings are separate. The opening or the hole in the go gauge is larger than that in the no go gauge. Now it is given that the opening or the hole in the go gauge is larger than the no go gauge. This is because go gauge always checks the or is used to check the dimension that corresponds to the maximum material condition, and since the ring gauge checks the dimension of the shaft only, or it is used to check the dimension of the shaft, the maximum material condition for the shaft when occurs when the shaft is having maximum material on it, or we can say that the hole inside the go gauge should be maximum as it checks the maximum material of the shaft. Similarly, the no go gauge is always used to check the dimensions corresponding to minimum material condition, and minimum material condition occurs for the shaft when the material of the shaft is least, that is when the shaft size is at the lower limit. So as per the statement, the opening of the hole in the go gauge is larger than that the no go gauge, because go gauge will be used to check the maximum size, so this hole has to be of maximum size, whereas the no go gauge will be used to check the lower limit size, so the dimension of this no go or hole inside the no go should be minimum. So finally we have completed the types of gauges. In short, we will revise again. We have studied three types of gauges. First was the plug gauge. Plug gauge is always used to check the dimensions of a hole, that is whether the manufactured hole is within the stated limits or not. Whereas the snap gauge and the ring gauge are always used to check the dimension of the shaft, or they are used for checking the dimension of the male members. So finally we have completed the topic limits, fits, tolerance and gauges. Thank you.